Okay, so it may last for a long time because it's not visible to the eye, as opposed to like a physical injury. It's not visible to the eye. So this may last a long time if and remain untreated, because the person may not know that they have hypertension without checking. Obviously, we have to check the blood pressure to know if it's high or if it's lower, or what's going on with the blood pressure. Okay, high blood pressure is also associated with many severe diseases, such as heart disease. It can, lead to heart disease. It leads to a stroke, and we'll discuss that as we go. And sometimes can lead to death. A lot of times we hear, oh, somebody, you might hear just like in passing, in layman terms, oh, somebody fell down and they died. You may not know why until like an autopsy is done, and then they may see like a ruptured artery in the brain, or something in the brain ruptured. High blood pressure constantly pounding against arteries and veins may cause rupture. It may cause rupture eventually. So that's what they're talking about when they're referring to and sometimes may lead to death. So what does high blood pressure exactly mean? We just talked about it. It is when, and I need you to think of this now, we have to be visual. We're going to imagine like a garden hose. I always use this analogy, like a garden hose. And it's when the force of blood, we have veins and arteries, running through our body. So remember, the heart pumps the blood through the body. It goes through the veins, through the arteries. So it's when the force of blood against that artery or wall of the body is too high. Imagine forcing a high pressure to a small vessel or a small opening, then that causes problems. So that's when the blood pressure comes up, you have a high reading. So our body and arteries, right? We have arteries, vessels, like I said, they carry oxygen-rich blood away from the heart. So we breathe in. When we breathe in oxygen. It goes to the lung, it transfers to the blood, and the heart pumps. The heart is just a pump. I shouldn't say just a pump. It is the pump, the pump. So the heart pumps the blood away, takes up the oxygen-rich blood. I just need you to visualize for a minute. Take the oxygen-rich blood from the arteries and it pumps it to other parts of the body. So we get oxygen in all our extremities, we get in the brain, we get even back to the heart first, feeds itself some oxygen, and then it sends the rest to the other parts of the body. The brain, think of the brain needs that oxygen, so the heart pumps it. So the hoses that we have around our body, if they're affected, then the pressure of that blood going around is going to be affected also, and the heart will have to pump harder. So that's how it leads to heart issues, like, for instance, enlarged heart. The heart is working from the day we're how many weeks old or less than weeks old, we have a little heart that's pumping for us. So that heart is working until God says so. So just imagine the amount of work. And if the blood pressure vessels are very small, or they're narrowed, or blocked, so to speak, then the pressure becomes higher. And that's why we have issues with the heart. Okay. We talk about the heart arteries are on the strain to carry blood. It's also called, that's all high blood pressure. Okay. So when someone has high blood pressure, the heart has to pump, like I said before, has to pump even harder. So it's in our best interest to keep our blood pressure low, not low, but not be in a hypertensive state, so that the heart would, get an easier time to, or less hectic time to pump the blood around the body. Now, how do we know what blood pressure really is? How can we measure it? Blood pressure is measured in two numbers. Okay. When the heart pumps, that's one set of numbers. That's systolic. And when the heart relaxes, that's a different number. So the first number, it's the first number over the second number. So a lot of times, most of you may know, but sometimes for those who are not too familiar with what it is, the numbers are, you'll see the doctor may give a reading, or you may have a reading, because there are a lot of commercial blood pressure machines that we have at home, or devices we have at home. We can take our blood pressure. We're going to get two little numbers, one on top, one at the bottom. Usually the larger number is on the top and the smaller one is at the bottom. Now, we have to decide, okay, we got a reading. We have to decide, what do these numbers mean? We just can't just look at the numbers and say, okay, we have a number. Let's say 140 over 90. So we took the blood pressure. The blood pressure is 140 over 90. what would we say? Are we comfortable with 140 over 90? Not really. 140 over 90 would put us in the category of having a high blood pressure.